Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen of the press. May I take this opportunity on behalf of the entire leadership of the National Democratic Congress and on my own behalf to extend to you and all Ghanaians healthy New Year wishes. We have convened this press engagement to focus attention on the historic developments and other matters of grave concern relating to the election of Speaker and Deputy Speakers of the Parliament of the Republic of Ghana, which transpired 2 days ago. From the onset, I'd like to salute and celebrate our gallant NDC members of Parliament for the brave fight they put up in the defense of the Constitution of the Republic of Ghana and, by extension, our democracy. By their resilience and dogged determination, they were able to produce an outcome never before seen in the political history of our dear country. In congratulating the NDC side of the House, permit me to also commend the true nationalists on the MPP side who put the national interest above parochial partisan interests, which led to this glorious outcome. The election of the veteran legislator and perhaps Ghana's most decorated member of Parliament, who has been an MP since 7 January 1993, is a refreshing development which presents positive prospects for our democracy. That said, ladies and gentlemen, events preceding and during the election of the Speaker have cast dark clouds about our democracy and has once again exposed the undemocratic tendencies of the Akufo-Addo-led administration. Indeed, some of these events caused serious embarrassment to the Ghanaian people and brought international shame to our democracy, which was once the envy of many nations. The indelible dark imprints of 6th and 7th January 2021 left many, including us in the NDC, wondering how our once vibrant democracy has sunk and continues to be denigrated under the watch of President Akufo-Addo, who has supervised the most fraudulent election in the history of our republic. Let me firstly place on record the National Democratic Congress's total condemnation of the dastardly acts of connivance to abuse judicial processes, intimidation, brazen disregard for the provisions of the 1992 Constitution of Ghana, naked acts of robbery and disregard of the electoral laws of Ghana, as well as the desecration of Parliament occasioned by the invasion of armed commandos of the Ghana Police and Armed Forces, which constitutes an affront to our democracy. Secondly, I'd like to formally commend the 137 NDC members of Parliament for their display of extraordinary courage, gallantry, resilience, dexterity, loyalty, and commitment to the cause of Ghana and the National Democratic Congress in the manner they put up the needed fierce resistance, even at gunpoint, to ensure a sound defeat of the forces of evil and the resounding triumph of our democracy. And finally, to congratulate Right Honorable Alban Kingsford Sumana Bagwin on the occasion of his election to the high office of the 8th Speaker of the 4th Republic of Parliament of Ghana. Ladies and gentlemen of the media, a brief account of the event that unfolded prior to, during, and after the election of the Speaker of Parliament would establish the appropriate background to our subsequent submissions. In compliance with Article 95(3) of the Constitution of Ghana, which provides, and I quote, "No business shall be transacted in Parliament other than the election to the office of Speaker at any time when the office of Speaker is vacant," unquote. The Clerk of Parliament, Mr. Cyril Kwabena Otin Nsia, who was clothed with the authority to convene the House in the absence of the Speaker, called the new House to order for commencement of official business at exactly 7 minutes after midnight on the 7th of January. When nominations were invited from the floor, Honorable Haruna Idrusu, the MP for Tamale South and the incoming majority leader, proposed Honorable Bagben to take the chair as Speaker of the 8th Parliament of the 4th Republic of Ghana. Honorable Muntaka Mubarak rose to second the motion, but in a bizarre twist of events and in clear breach of the standing orders, the Clerk of Parliament, who was then presiding, recognized Honorable Afenyo Markin, the MPP MP for Ifutu, who rose on point of order. Honorable Afenyo sought to find out from the clerk whether he had received service of a Cape Coast High Court order restraining the MP-elect for Asiedu North from being sworn in as a member of Parliament. A debate ensued, but before all sides could be heard adequately, for instance, Honorable Dominic Ayine was on his feet, struggling to catch the eye of the clerk. The clerk overlooked all that and ruled that he had received the court order, so the MP-elect of Asiedu North could not participate in the proceedings. A clear, calculated ploy to reduce the voting strength of the NDC side. However, the clerk was compelled by his own embarrassment to reverse his earlier decision when he could not provide further and better particulars of the service, including the name of the bailiff who affected the service. At this stage, it became clear that an MPP official actually served the clerk with the court order and not a court bailiff. It is the considered view of the NDC that this act of connivance by the Clerk of Parliament constitutes serious misconduct on the part of the occupant of the high office of the Clerk of Parliament of the Republic of Ghana and must not go unaddressed. It is a big shame, ladies and gentlemen, that the Clerk of Parliament scandalously lent himself as a pliant tool in the conspiracy to reduce NDC's parliamentary numbers and give the MPP an unfair advantage in the speakership election. How an order of injunction was allegedly dispatched from Cape Coast at 4:44 p.m. could be served on the Clerk of Parliament at 4:55 p.m. when he was within the presence of Parliament performing his functions is a mystery which only the MPP and the Clerk of Parliament alone can explain. The NDC roundly condemns in the strongest possible terms not only the contravention of the due process of law by the Clerk of Parliament, by the shameful conduct of the Cape Coast High Court. Article 104, Clause 4 of the Constitution provides that, and I quote, where Parliament is considering a bill to amend the Constitution, or where the voting is in relation to the election or removal of any person under this Constitution or under any other law, voting shall be in secret. This provision was read and explained to the House before the commencement of the voting. Yet, the MPP side of the House insisted on open voting, where each of their members was compelled to display their marked ballot paper openly to their leadership before putting it in the ballot box. In the face of this clear breach of the Constitution and the unwillingness or inability, or both, of the presiding clerk to enforce the rules, the gallant NDC MPs were left with no other option than to disrupt the voting and stop the continuous perpetrating of this impunity and fraud. Their demand was very clear and specific. Either the vote is conducted according to law, or there will be no voting at all. When it became clear that the MPP side could not have their way in of both sides with the clerk, it is important to note that a significant number of MPP MPs still managed to display their votes openly, but they were ignored with contempt. At the close of polls, there were signs of relief that the worst was over. Little did anybody conjecture that the most disgraceful action in the history of parliamentary practice in Ghana was about to unfold under our very eyes. After the sorting of ballots, the completion of the first part of the counting process, which saw one rejected ballot and 136 votes cast in favor of Professor Mike Aaron Kwe, the MPP MP for Swami, Honorable Oseiche Mensah Bonsu, was seen directing Honorable Carlos Ahenkra, another MPP MP for Tema West, to the table where the ballots were being counted. In fact, Honorable Oseiche Mensah Bonsu was seen shoving another MP off to pave the way for Carlos Ahenkra. Immediately after, Honorable Carlos Ahenkra dashed to the table, snatched the heap of ballots being counted for Bagwen, and took to his heels in a Usain Bolt style. Once again, the gallantry of the NDC MPs was on display, and within minutes, the ballot thief had been arrested and the papers retrieved, even though he had managed to chew and swallow 2 ballot papers. Surprisingly, the same leadership of MPP who had orchestrated this daylight robbery in Parliament unashamedly began calling for annulment of the election on account of the ballots having been tampered with. You go and steal ballot papers, and you want somebody's victory to be annulled because of your thievery. This is exactly what played out in Sene West. where the MPP youth organizer snatched a ballot box, managed to break the MPP seal on the box. When he was arrested, and both the Electoral Commission and NDC accepted that the ballots could be counted, the same MPP people came demanding that the box had been tampered with, so it cannot be counted. And when the matter went to court, when the thief was sent to court, his senior official, the deputy regional chairman of MPP in Boron region, was the lawyer to defend him. When that defense failed, and the thief was jailed 3 months for tampering with the ballot box. Then they came back and tried to prevent the counting of the contents of the box through a court injunction. Fortunately, that did not succeed. The same way as Bagben's attempt to spoil Bagben's vote did not succeed. And so the NDC MP in Seneweth had to be declared the winner, the same way as Right Honorable Abam Bagben has also been declared a winner. The MPP demand for a rerun of the elections and the counter demand for the declaration of Honorable Bagben as the winner led to another 2 hours of stalemate before eventually evil had to succumb to the forces of democracy. In fact, at some point in time, the MPP were demanding that before Bagben could be declared the winner, we should accept a joint statement indicating that Professor Michael Okwui withdrew from the contest and there was no election at all. Can you imagine this? Everybody in the world saw the election happening, saw the ballot papers being stolen, and you want us to come and embarrass ourselves, or rather to share in your embarrassment with a common statement that the election didn't take place and Mike Aaron Okwui was never defeated and that he withdrew eventually to allow Bagben to go. Some of us insisted that Mike Okwui had lost the elections and let the whole world know that he had lost the elections because he was warned. In fact, I did warn him that he was too old to be a speaker. And I advised him that this was the time for him to dedicate the rest of his life telling Anansi stories to his grandchildren. He didn't listen. And he went in for the contest. So you must be prepared for the shock of a defeat. That's all. Nothing more, nothing less. So we are happy that the truth eventually prevailed. And some of us didn't understand why a clerk will conduct elections only for leadership of parliament to declare results. We insisted that the clerk must declare the results of his own elections. If he's proud of the election, he should say so. And that was done. Ladies and gentlemen of the media, Parliament in every democratic jurisdiction represents the bulwark of democratic freedoms And we insist that this excessive abuse of power to intimidate members of parliament represent a desecration of our highly revered parliamentary democracy and a grave affront to the dignity of the legislative arm of government. No other person than Nana Akufo-Addo as Commander-in-Chief, or shall I say Acting Commander-in-Chief of the Ghana Armed Forces and Chair of the National Security Council, was directly responsible for the unwarranted, illegal, and despotic invasion of Parliament before its inauguration. Ladies and gentlemen, on the night of the election, specifically as midnight approached, one could see at play all the condemnable acts of violence, intimidation, abuse of the judicial process, misuse of the Ghana Armed Forces, and the destruction of once revered state institutions that characterized the just ended December 7 presidential and parliamentary elections. What happened in Parliament from January 6 to 7, 2021 was simply God's way of bringing life to all Ghanaians, freely. The infractions and crimes the NDC had been complaining about since we went to the polls. The MPP's penchant to ignore due process, set the rules aside, and use brute force to have its way has now played out before Ghanaians and the international community freely. We would like to urge the newly elected Speaker and our MPs to always remember the hard-fought victory of that night and ensure they put the national interest first at all times. Ladies and gentlemen, the sad spectacle we witnessed in Parliament were just a repeated snapshot of what took place across the length and breadth of the country during the general elections held on December 7, 2020. The use of armed soldiers at various polling stations and constituency collation centers, snatching of ballot boxes, intimidation, harassment, and in some cases, killing of innocent, unarmed civilians in cold blood was what characterized the elections of 7th December 2020. The circumvention of due process, as we have witnessed in the election of a Speaker of Parliament, was played out in the form of plain thievery and systematic rigging, culminating in the flawed and fraudulent declaration which the NDC is challenging in the Supreme Court. As the world witnessed the ugly events of speakership election and the subsequent vindication of truth, we are quite confident that it is only a matter of time before the truth once again prevails in the matter of the 2020 election petition filed by our presidential candidate, Dramani Mahama. It is our hope that when the outstanding issues regarding the disputed parliamentary results, such as Techiman Saf, Sehuyoso, Hohoi, Takwan Suayim, Zabzugu, etc., are satisfactorily resolved, there will be a clear NDC majority in the 8th Parliament of the 4th Republic. Meanwhile, the NDC is calling for a full parliamentary inquiry to be instituted by the Speaker of Parliament into the unfortunate events of the January 7th, 2021 in Parliament, particularly the invasion of the Chamber of Parliament by gun-wielding military men with Azugu marks and the snatching of ballot papers by now dishonorable Carlos Ahenkra, and to punish all those who are found culpable in the accordance with the laws of this country, including the conduct of the Clerk of Parliament on that occasion, and to forestall any such occurrence in the future. How the Marshal of Parliament allowed the security of Parliament to be breached by people who are described in parliamentary parlance as foreigners on the floor of Parliament. If you are not a member and you enter there, you are a foreigner. So how the Marshal, who is in charge of the security of Parliament, allows his domain to be invaded in such a matter must be a matter of inquiry. And those who deserve to be punished must be punished accordingly. Whilst at it, let me state clearly and unequivocally that notwithstanding the inauguration of Mr. Akufo-Addo as President of Ghana, the NDC shall not, and I repeat, shall not recognize Mr. Akufo-Addo as the legitimate President of the Republic of Ghana until all the issues surrounding his flawed election are satisfactorily resolved. I want to repeat that the NDC shall not, and they must watch my lips, the NDC shall not recognize Mr. Akufo-Addo as a legitimately elected President of the Republic of Ghana until all the issues surrounding his flawed election are satisfactorily resolved. Thank you very much, and may God bless our whole Okay. P4. Yeah, and say the Dika Imagina NDC and Panifo Anemu, enemy and Casaso, Manemu, Ama Ghana Funina Afishiapa, and then Central Funshia Mui, your friend say, your betray or minor journey, Ako and Ingwasi Samoa, AC, Ewo or minor Rashe Bajamu, na Nuya Abitramui, Wabra na Parliament, Tuaba, Apau, Rashe Bajamu, Chiame. The Dikai Yadinasia Ebema NDC, Rashe Bajafo, Oha Aduasan so Nunina. Se womo akokodura womo de sori gina ye e de prema o my Ghana kan bi ma min kan bi amamuo ene National Democratic Congress Party no yedie ye besan so ada ye nuanom a womo wo MPP mu a de ekoso no nyina na eye wo mo tan eye wo mo ahi esan se wo mo nim se oman no nkanko eho hia chen party anti ebi etimi sori gina ye ehu nokre ekoto aba no ema de mrahye badwamu chiame no akonwa no fata no a eye yenua Alban Sumana Bagben na enei wabeye mrahye badwamu chiame yeda wo mu nyina ase na ye ka no saa no na ye twe ya dwen akọ aninguasesem a esi wo mrahye badwamu ho wabra abato no na ebe koso mo be kai se ye kwa abato December 2020 eba ye no NDC be ka se kwanya aban no ene electoral commission akoye kutupa na wo mo achinchim nipa nsa edi soja eni police for ni vigilante for ekoburu nipa baby wo ho ni awia ballot boxes ni ase no baby wo ho ballot papers ni afa ni atitim ani nyina na omobotai ni se oman no besan age Nana Akufo-Addo atum se ono na ye mampani ni asan age ne mrahye badwamu fo no dodo no ama omo abetena parliament migidi se ebra NDC ba ya na ye complain o sa na ma no Ghana fo bebre a wo mo anko field anko hu de si ye no na ye wo mo adwene mu na se NDC jama dedebi e na ye yo enti Nyankopon e wo kwan a ofa so e pawo di bonyeni bia na sene ntoma e ma yehunu na daja enu nti niema esisi ye eye nansane ne no yenim se eye kwan a na twedi ampo Nyankopon opese oda MPP fo suban ene Nana Akufo-Addo suban adi na Ghana fo na enye Ghana fo nkwa mpo wiase fo nyina efrise parliament jumadie no koso no ne won sentrofo a wo mu firi wiase ba bia na wo mo ho a wo mo so ehwe bi enunti nipa no nyina na timi ko efie ho ana nya wo mu nyina so na timi hwe TV enunti eda ne kwa mu se niema ekukọ so no ye be kire bi mu abọ no tofa na mahunu de ekọ so de di kan parliament no ko trans ya say parliament chairman eni ho a ense se parliament hia se parliament be hia juma wo mo betimi dia ne se wo mo ebeto abane ayi mrahye badwamu chairman saa na ye mrakuni no ekire na chairman no ni ho a ye wo de oja nanamu edi saa adwuma no e frɛ no clerk of parliament minim ya mamre mu se ye be frɛ no ahenkwa o se ye be frɛ no de be yu enunti papai e frɛ nhyiamu no anadwo no dumienu pa ho meet be ye nson pɛ ena omiebo mpaye de dwumadie no ahihye so enunti obie akwanya se obia wonsusu ya efa nipa ese de no ye mrahye badwamu chiame a onfamra enti yenua Haruna Idrusu ene sorry ye ene osusu se yemfa honorable Bagben enye mrahye badwamu chiame parliament nhihye wo hosie bue nomination no obi nominate obi a wa obesori a obenya akwanya kasa bia na o ye obi a obefoa ne so ye ma ho kwan se ya ka nomination ne ese hwan na befoa so a na obi foforo asori so o ka asem foforo enso so no ye bo Alban Sumana Bagben dia muntaka sori se okofoa so a ɛna MPP mmarahyɛbadwani bi a ɛfrɛ no Afenyo Makin ɔsɔre yɛ no ɔka sɛ ɔpɛ sɛ obisa clerk no sɛ ne nsa aka krataa bi a ɛfiri Cape Coast High Court a ɛkyerɛ sɛ asɛn of MP a yɛapaw no kɔɔto abra no sɛ ɛnsɛ sɛ ɔbɛtena parliament hɔ no ɔsuae anaasɛ abato a yɛbɛto no obɛtumi ato bi nti ɛde akyinye ɛbae mea baabi a na mete no koraa no Afenyo Makin gu so a ɔkasa ɔse ɔpɛ sɛ obisa clerk no sɛ ne nsa aka krataa bi no ɔdi kan ka sɛ ne nsa nka krataa ɛwɔ tape so ɔdi kan ka sɛ ne nsa nka krataa afei sɛ yɛdɛn ɔkasa wie a ɛsɛ sɛ akwanya ba na anuye bi wɔ hɔ a na the other side so ayie no akyinye no kɔ so no a anwie yɛmmra nimni kɛseɛ paa ɔyɛ former deputy attorney general Dominic Ayine ɔsɔre gyina sɛ ɔbɛkyerɛkyerɛ nsɛm bi mu a na clerk ɔde abaabɔ mu sɛ o ne nsa aka Samuel krataa no na wate aseɛ sɛ ɔmma asɛn of MP ɔnto saa aba no bi ɛno deɛ nsuo bɔ a kasɛ bɔ me enti ɔmo anim mmara yi wei bisa no question wei bisa no question wei me akora baabi a mete no na mani awu ama no ɛfiri sɛ yɛse Cape Coast High Court sɛ wɔn a issue krataa 4:44 11 minutes akyi na wo nsa aka no wɔ parliament a krataa no so ɛnsɛ sɛ yɛde fa electronic mail biara so ɛsɛ sɛ obi di bɛhyɛ wo nsa a ɔyɛ belief clerk sɛ ne nsa aka ɛsi belief bɛn na de baayɛ onim ɔte waa ɔse Hamza ɛna a lawyer no a wɔn nim saa nipa no ɛna wɔn sɛ ɔpani Hamza yɛ Cape Coast Court Registrar ɔnyɛ belief enti deɛ ɛkorɔ no na onim sɛ yɛmu binom nim sɛ MPP akuku dam no bi ɛna ɛkɔɔ kɔɔto hɔ sɛ yɛmfa krataa no ɛmfa mmra wɔn head office ha ɛna wɔn de fa electronic mail mu ɛma MPP foɔ no ara bi ɔfa krataa no de kɔma clerk of parliament a ɛnyɛ ne kwan so na clerk of parliament so yɛhunahuna wa ama wabɛgye atum sɛ Cape Coast belief na bɛsɛve krataa ɛno nti sɛ ɔbɔfoɔ bi bɛma anadwene sɛ deɛ waka no wɔntumi nwe enti ɔmpungu ɛna ɔno a ɔpugu yɛ sɛ akurase maka me nweeɛ asɛm a medi kan no me anam ka masɛm mɛboa enti yɛma ɔpani no mmɛto naba enti wei kyerɛ ɔpɛfee sɛ na kanana bi kɔ so ɛfa MPP foɔ ɛne parliament akrakyefoɔ a mmara mu no ɛnsɛ sɛ momokɔ obiara afa no ana ne botaeɛ ne sɛ yɛbɛyɛ kanta ama maikokoi abɛwini nyame nkyɛ adeɛ ɛna wɔmoto ɛpaeɛ wɔmoto paeɛ a ɛno firi hɔ yi anso hɔ parliament mmara constitution so kyerɛ sɛ yɛto aba ɛwɔ parliament na ɛfa sɛ yɛde sisa constitution no baabi anaasɛ yɛde to aba apaw obi amana kodi akonnwa bi anaa yɛto obi afiri akonnwa so a ɛsɛ sɛ saa abatoɔ no ɛyɛ by secret ballot clerk ɛkan saa mmara no ɛde to dwa sɛ ɛno ne yɛde bɛyɛ abatoɔ yi Afe yen kwesha abatuo yi ase a. Na MPP for so announce say wo de obi a ebema ballot paper bia o maake nipa obeto amana fa be kire MPP mpanimfo ansa na wo de akoto adaka mu. Ene si there bi etia constitution enti enya no sa ye beka wo monte ase ena wo mo sha ase se wo mo to aba no sa e de etia constitution no eno na ma NDC MP4 no e sori ye ekotia mu se ye ma bato no nkoso ne enkoso kina sa bato obi be koso a esese e famra so frenchim entisa na enya bato enti ekoso be ye mprensa kura ye sha ase a na wo mugusu se ye ndie sa na ye be ye no enti obi sa ho se na nipa yi wo mo ewo aban mu yi wo mo adwen ni se oman no mra no eni wo mo na mom nipa wo mo nya MPP fo nko ana oman mra bedi wo mo ana se wo mo adwen ni sen enunti enuma abato no etwesan echere pa enti pinchen no koso no afi ye behwa sojafo na apie police fo ne di kan baaye ansumo na sojafo apie ekura atuo armed ede azugu mat akatakata wo mo anim wo mo abebo awura efie ho parliament ho a onye member of parliament ya wuntimi emfa na nsi ho no sojafo abewura ho ba bibia anka sojafo no se chiri wo mu nyina for mutiny se wo ma ye kudita se wo ma bewura mrahye badwam sa kikri no big tu niti wufo se ma wo monko o se me ma wo monko ena wo mo ho a ena ye NDC MP fo se na munku ye mpreko se mudi soja ahurahura ye wo outside na ye ne ye fie ha mo be san di soja abeto aye ha de ena munku ye ne mfanya abakosem enu nti soja fo no ejira ho be se meet dunum abato bi ankoso bibi ankoso ena kire wo mo ade wo mo ani wo e withdraw epie koye enu achi ena MPs wo mo mpanimfo no ekohia mu ye meeting se ebre eko ade achi nso asese esai president enu nti no wo mo ntiase na abato no nkoso ye wo mo nyina ti ase sensan krata se ye beti ase ama abato no aye by secret ballot no wo mo ba ya ye share ballot na ase nipa no bebre efa se me de enie ma ye me de akire na yetu MPs no for say wo mo nyai say majority of MPs no na wo mo di mra no so enti obi a ono pese o sign anim say me na me yefra me kwasi patapa no mo nya no man nya ne patapa enti wo mo ye yamfi wo mo ena yeto abai wie enti yeto abanu gu adaka no mu wie yi obi a nim say aningu asesem a esi ye no eto atwa enti afedie ye bekan abanu ne ahunu de odi nkunim ye bu adaka eto ho a in fact nipa 275 no nyina bai obia ni ho a ye bo ni dia no ye absent ase na ni bre ho pa enu nti ye bue adaka no so ye sorting no ye di kan ekan ballot a asei na enu ye baako nipa no di kan maake Michael Kwe ena otwa mu etwere bagben ena omo se wotwam kura no a wa maake baabi enti ye mprenso me yenkan ena ye de to nchen ye se ate wo mo kan Michael Kwe de no na akoye 136. I just say, would you put a grammar cry NDC afa? Every day, I did 275. We back when I say free mu. Na we 136 free mu. Ya can you 138. Enunti ati wa na ehun se Chairman Sambonsu wafre Carlos Ahenkura. Nti one no kasa kakra kwansima na obi gina Chairman Sambonsu animu ne adaka no. Ana ode ne nsabo nipa na chi se ontwe ne ho mai kwan mu. Enti se na obai kwan mu ama kromfo na aba. So, and no buy quite more. Ikri, we same boat. No, I bet Tam Abambagwin vote to Nuna at the abominable. Ye chasing no the Minuashan and Anunti say na bulls are for a crash of parliament. Enti wo so kire na de kakra bi enti wo mya brebre eji enkrata jeze wa wi mi nu amene afe yenim se ya che na awie dia assembly na semko Chairman Sambonsu no a wo wasoma obi amana boss akro no no mo san sori agina se abanu yebetwam efise obi abefa nkrata na nkofo esusu se yen ya hohuru ya nimu a de kosoro ana enunti eno kwa twen yen mietra ho be se donhwiri mienu achi na eguso afi na omo aba jombo adunum nyina aba ne abehye kokoam ba bi yes e frame ho nam se menya mp menko ho mi gina bonten so ha na de tie bia mo bebo bagben din se wa wini election enunti wa mo ya na jese ankosiaga clerk nu pie na mka se wona ko date o elections council resource yani mu ni meeting bia council resource se o mo hihye onu nyina no ebi adwene se MPP animu aguase na na kufu ade ekobona mane se de asini a yenim de obeye enunti yesre se momye nko announce se abato no ya nyanto na man kokwe oduru ba bi no ohun se opese ojaima bagben no ojaima bagben nam se ede ani wusam ni na monkwana na mo he TV o ma he nyina de wa bewia nkrata bewia wo pese ye ka se abato amaso na mokro no no ebeda dadi enti anya sa monkoka Michael Kwe oba munu no onim se wa ba akokora wontimi nante enti se amanfo susu se ye mfa ma obi a wa hodin se obeye adwuma ne de amano a se wa shoko akoda fie enunti obi amfrew you want him with your eyes open ti wo mu now so ena nyame nche dia ya now so enunti ya semu ne se sa ne mana esisi se ye ka se ye prapra e dia shekete biase ne aye adwen se wa twamu aye ntwamu a aninguase na aba no Ghana fo a eti omanum ene wo mu a wo mu ti abrochire ba bibia no ye difia ka wo mu nyina enunti esese ye democracy no etimi sorry na se obi difin abeka no a yetimi popa selfie no free ho na wo mu hu se Ghana mistake betimi aba na mistake ba banyansafo wo Ghana womo sori epopa saa fin no free ho ne e ka se ye wi a ne awi a ye wi a ye nwie enti ye nam mo so to nkra ama speaker foforo na waba no se na djuma no be yi a ese so o sha ase ese obeti ba so ko bi e be hwehwe ensemfin no a ekọ so December 6 and December 7 parliament ho yan hwehwe de di sojafo ni prosifo no be wura parliament ho yan hwehwe kwan a enam so a marshal of parliament ya ono parliament security fo no nyina oda wo mo ano ona hwe bambo so wo parliament otimitira ho Emma other security forces ebe invade premises no sign eko wura mrahye badwa fie ho no se na adwuma no ontimi nya yempa nipa foforo ma nenye ne yensan hwe clerk no a ono so emra ehye no se ne office no ense se odiko obi afa na kwanye fa so a court nkrata mu ho nsem a emu na ho ene kwanye fa so a yama no asudie se omyento aba emu beda ho na ebe secret ballot na MPP for de mrano share wo nsa se wo nye secret ballot na ono wantimi anya ho bibibia no ya hwehwe ono so ne ne yenu na obi biara asotwe fata no yemfa sa asotwe no emma no na nye asensodie enna ho se oba be sei Ghana democracy a yewo eho asotwe wo ho a esese ye de twem na we nyina yekoso no ese ye kekamfu a ekekama adampan na ye yi speaker ne aform parliament ama Nana Akufo-Addo akosai akire parliament no enti ye wie no okosai kire parliament no fa NDC MPs yansi ho ifri say ye gina ye nanso say abato na ekoso 7th December no na mu na ho na niema ne ye ka ho asem se esisi ya na eye binom tribunal no eno na Nyankopon aboa ma wo mo ankasa bepa wo mo ho ntoma eno ntino kosi se ye behwehwe saa niema mu akosi every three akosi to otwan na obia hunu se abato no bibibia eto chima wo mu bia no yakura no ana ye free ho no ye NDC fo ne akitafo nyina se Nana Akufo-Addo ye mu no se oye president ya o man Ghana ato abayi no enti so be president ya obey president on half of the country NDC fo nkan enunti owo Flagstaff House ho a ochimai na odi no ho ohwe akire mai ne enkope president da president papa beba no ye no be ye adwuma ye da mu nyina ase nyame enhira e man Ghana.
Hello, please can you mute the music? So the journalists hearing gathered would want to find out from you whether you have questions for the General Secretary. If you have a question, kindly come in front here. We'll give you a microphone. Sound man, can I get another microphone? So come closer.
Hello.
Bring it here. So you tell us your name, your media organization, and your question.